Just a little too much of me, right?
A little
Well,
bit.
welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our audience here and those that are joining us or will be joining us live on YouTube and those that get to watch it in the future. Welcome. My name is Mitch Kamich. I am the Savage in Business, and this is a Syndicate Talks Season 2, Episode 2. Why is that really important? Well, we've got seasons, multiple seasons. And in fact, we've just started Season 2, but Season 3 is going to be coming at you hot and heavy. Now, what is the Syndicate Talks? It, of course, is about business education. Syndicate is this wonderful organization of entrepreneurs, creators, innovators, and, of course, business leaders that come together for a common purpose and with a common vision. It's to be able to collectively grow. We network, we trade information, we refer to each other, etc. But one of the things we also do is we bring our regular members, business owners just like you, into a stage like this, virtual. You know, we're on Zoom right now and live on YouTube, to do one thing, to pass on what they've accumulated. Because time and again, success in business is proven to come from a couple of factors. One, you focus on some of what we're going to talk about today. In other words, your money, your cash flow, sales, marketing, etc., and being able to measure it, touch it, taste it, manipulate it. Also, having access to information. The more you know, the smarter you get, the faster you respond in business. And lastly, one of the proven predicators of success is having the right people around you. So in Syndicate, we surround ourselves with the right people already, and then we leverage their information to make us better at our jobs, to make our businesses better, stronger, faster, etc. And then we pass that education on to you. So welcome to a Syndicate Talk, Season 2, and I'm Mitch Kamich. I am both your host and your speaker for today. And today, it's all about doing business, or just do business. We have right now, and today's broadcast date is November 3rd of 2020, which means we have, 51 days till the big man in the red suit comes. And we have basically 60 days until the new year starts, which means maximizing our time right now is going to allow us to set up for success in the future. Now, what that success means, the next 30 days are critical. 30 days is going to take us to the first week of December. 30 days after that is going to take us to the first week of January. We are in 2021. And I believe we can all agree that 2020, good and bad, has been a little bit of a gong show. So what we can do to help ourselves, what we can do to help our families, what we can do to help our business partners, our friends, our employees, is to be really concise, really precise, and more importantly, I hate to say it with as much enthusiasm as I am using right now, but as precise or clinical as we can be for the next 30 days. If we work smarter, not harder, and I keep holding up blank paper right now, there's a couple of words written on it, but if we work smarter, not harder, the next 30 days can help us to set the table for success in 2021 and moving beyond. Because what I discussed today is something that you should be considering doing every 30 days or every 60 days. So without further ado, we're going to dive right in. So we've got some critical components, some key components of your business. So we're going to talk about assessing where you're sitting at right now. You just want to know where you're at. So if you're going to make any changes or you're going to do anything with your business, you need to have a couple of absolutes, the cornerstones. So ask yourself this, and why I keep showing you paper is that you're going to need one of these and you're going to need one of these. No, it doesn't have to be this same pen, but you're going to need one of these because you have to write it down. So here you go. Some areas that you need to address for your business, whether it's little, just you, or whether it's big, dozens, hundreds, thousands of employees. Answer these questions. Do you know how much cash you have in the bank right now? Your business. Do you know how much cash you got in the bank right now? Do you know how much cash it's going to cost this week and this month for your business to operate? How far does the money you have in the bank right now get you? So if I have $1,000 in the bank and the rest of November is going to cost me $10,000, that already tells me I better find $9,000 before the end of November, just an example, to be able to get my business through the month. Cash flow, not your financial health, cash flow is a cornerstone. It is a fundamental. If you have cash in the bank, we all know that. Now, I don't have my wallet in my pocket, but I am patting my pocket for emphasis and to prove a point. But if we have cash in our wallet and cash in the bank, then we can do something. Next, if we have access to credit, and no, I'm not saying use your credit cards to pay all your bills, but if we have access to credit, that is addition to cash that could help in a pinch. And then we need to know how much money we expect or reasonably or usually make over that period of time. So the very first cornerstone and fundamental question we ask is, how much money do I have? How much is it going to cost for the next 30 days? How much am I going to have to find? From there, I address how much. So if we're writing it down, how much money? I'm going to whip out this bad boy, and I'm going to go online, and no, it doesn't have to have an Apple on the back either, but I'm going to whip out this bad boy. I'm going to go to my banking app, and I'm going to write down how much money I actually have in my business bank account right now. And for good measure, I'll write down how much I have next to it, because I need to know how much money I've got to pay my mortgage and pay my utilities and pay my car bills and my cell phone bill and all those other things. Then next, how far will that money go? So how much is it going to cost for me by the end of November for my whole household or my whole business to run? I want to write that figure down. So I've got how much money I've got, how much it's going to cost to operate for the rest of the month. And then I'm going to have a difference. It's either going to be a positive or a negative number. You either need to find money or you've got enough to get by. If you've got enough to get by, it doesn't mean you're going to stop, no, but it means you've got the luxury of being able to be diligent and take your time as opposed to have to move really, really quickly. Now, if I'm going to tell you in the next 30 days, we want to maximize and grow, of course we want to push. But a cornerstone, a fundamental, an absolute immutable law in business is how much money I have. So how much do I have? How much is it going to cost to the end of November for my business to operate? And how much do I need, or how much extra do I have so that it puts me in a better spot for December? Once I address that, and chances are, if you're like most business owners, even though you're going to have more, I would hope, than how much it's going to cost to spend, there's going to be a discrepancy and a difference. Then we get, and this is a fancy word for it, a run time or a burn time. In other words, if that money, if I didn't add any more money to that pile, how long is that money going to last paying my bills before I need more? If that number, now it's the third part when we talk about making sure that your cash flow, your money is in a really good spot. So I've got how much I've got, how much it costs to run for the rest of the month, and how much more I've got to make. Then we've got that runtime. Now, how much do I have to add to keep it going? Understanding the money that we've got and how much we need to make to keep making our business and our life expand and continue to run further and further and further into the future is a stated goal for every business. It must be. If I do not find the amount of money it takes to pay my bills on a regular basis, I'm in trouble, and then I have to start to use credit. If I don't find enough money to maintain my credit and replenish my cash flow, pretty soon I'm making that time-honored tradition of paying minimum amounts on borrowed money, credit cards, lines of credit, et cetera, are borrowed, so you've got to pay extra to get it. And now I'm even further in a hole. So the amount of money it takes for me to pay my bills starts to put me in debt as opposed to me at least holding my own. So that's the first figure we always need, is how much money do I need extra through now and the end of the month? Congratulations if the amount of money you've got right now is going to get you by. Next, your job is to know how much that difference is and how long it will stretch out to. And third, how much more do we have to add to? There is we will call it a truth, if you can, for a moment. And I'm sure we've heard this, especially if you've grown up in Canada or the United States. And if you had parents or grandparents that balanced a checkbook, I know I balanced a checkbook in my life, where when we're looking at the amount of money that we've got and how far it's going to go, that really the only truth that's left over is what I put in black and white on that piece of paper. And then it tells us how far we have to go to our next paycheck. So for a business owner, every time you get paid, it's like you are earning another paycheck for yourself and for your employees, or your partners, or your vendors, et cetera. So knowing the amount of money that we have and how far it's going to go and adding it on, then we come to the second part of that balance your checkbook analogy or comparison for a moment, which was having at least 90 days money parked away. And we're in the middle of a pandemic, and a lot of people are going to go, Mitch, I'm finding it really hard just to have enough money for this month. I understand. But a goal for your business that needs to be over a certain period of time, because remember, success. So we're talking 30 days right now. So success in the next 30 days is get enough money to pay my bills, all of them. Okay, great. If I have enough right now, then how much further will my money go? I want to know what that number is. Then how much can I add additionally between now and the end of the month to make that amount stretch out further into the future? And as I can go through every day, every week, and every month to add another day at the front end, off in the distance, not today or tomorrow, the better off I will be, because business, as we know, is fluid. It bounces, it ebbs and flows. It goes through peaks and valleys. If business gets really busy and then it drops off the end. So by having as much runtime as possible, and if you can start to get that right in the next 30 days, your business becomes bulletproof, because a measurable, so success in the next 30 days to set you up. This is a conservative one. How much money do I have? How much is it going to cost? And how long will that money last? If it's not going to last that long, then we know how much we have to make. So a series of small details, the money I have on hand right now, information one, all of my bills for this month, what it's going to cost to get by, number two, the difference between the amount I have and how much it's going to cost, big or little number, positive or negative. In other words, I need more, or I've got the luxury of having enough time to take some more time to find it, is number three. And then four, how much do I have to add to extend that to the next time? So if I've got enough money for 1 month right now, how much does it take to keep that month moving, plus add on to get another week or 2 weeks or a month? If I have the luxury of a month or a month and a half or 2 months worth of money, how long and how much do I have to add to keep it moving? In other words, can I pay my bills while I have that money parked and add a little bit on the front end? Every time I can pay for what I have running right now in my business with what I'm earning today and tomorrow and next week, then that money, I also need to make it grow so it continues to give me more and more time. So we start with, can I get a week's worth of operating money, cash in the bank? How much does it cost? What does it cost for you to get by, to get through right now, to pay all your bills? Can I make it 2 weeks? Can I make it a month? So these figures are desperately important, because they are ones that you have to focus on every single month, every 30 days. How much money do I have? And what does it cost to pay for the entire month? Now, if you don't have I have a vague idea, or I just know that when the bills show up, I pay them, then you need to take the time and opportunity, again, with this thing and with this thing, to write down what it actually costs for your business and for your personal lifestyle to be able to be afforded every single month. Next, you need to break it down week by week. Mitch, it sounds exhausting. It sounds like a lot of work. Yeah, it is. But there should never be any surprises. Your mortgage payment or rent payment, your lease payment, your car payment, your home equity line of credit payment, if you're fancy, your personal line of credit payment, your credit card payments, any other debts you have to pay off, they all occur at a regular place and time. Your mortgage payment comes out, the first of the month. Your utility payments come out on the 4th or 5th or 6th of the month. Your cell phone bill is due the middle of the month. Your regular, if you've got a household phone bill or internet bill at home, that's due sometime in the month. See what I'm saying is that for most of us and for most of our business bills and most of our personal bills, those bills occur on a regular basis. And in fact, that amount probably makes the bulk of what you're going to pay on a monthly basis. I can tell you right now, and I mean, I'm talking to you here and on camera, but I got a screen up here and a screen up here. And on this screen, I've got my calendar open to tell me when I've got meetings and appointments, and even coming in and doing this broadcast as well. But what it also tells me is things like when my car payment comes out, when my utility payment comes out, when my housing payment comes out, when my business loan payment comes out, when my credit card payment minimum amount is due if I've got a balance on my credit card. So when I'm looking at my calendar here this week, I can see that, and I'm just gonna, let's see, what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 bills this week. And those 5 bills, I can tell you quickly if I haven't been paying enough attention, but I see all of these roll up on a regular basis, exactly how much money it's going to cost this week. So then Mitch can say to himself, Mitch, yes, I'm talking about myself in the third person. Mitch, this is how much money I need this week just to get by. Okay. How much do I have in the bank? Is it enough to cover this? Yes. Check. Okay, cool. If I take my cursor, and I'm actually going to do this, I'm not just making the motions, and I go forward a week. Okay. Okay, I go to next week. Look at my calendar next week. What do I have? I got 1, 2, 3, 4 bills next week. And now I can look at them and say, I know how much that one is, and I know how much that one is, and I know how much it is, and how much that one is. Okay. Now, I add those up. Do I have enough money right now in the bank to pay my bills this week and my bills next week? Yeah, I do. Okay, good. So right now I've got 2 weeks. I got 2 weeks to work. I got my bills covered for 2 weeks so far. So it doesn't mean I don't want to make money this week, but it does mean that I've got the luxury of being able to take my time. So I go forward 1 more week on my calendar. Okay, I got 1 bill, 2 bills, 3 bills, 4 bills, 5 bills. 5 bills that week. Okay. How much is it? Okay. That number added together plus the week before, plus the week before, which is this week that we're talking right now. Do I have enough money in the bank to pay all of those? I do. Good. Okay. So right now, I know that I've got at least 3 weeks. I don't want all my money to disappear. No, I don't want that. But I've got 3 weeks. So I've got some luxury and some time to do the other parts. I don't have to panic, or I don't have to struggle, or I don't have to push or worry about the amount of money today. Now I've spent 20 minutes talking about just cash and cash flow. I want this to be desperately important for you to understand that this is the lifeblood of your business. The next 30 days to either know that you've got 30 days of comfort or security, that you've got a certain number of days a week's comfort and security and tells you how much more you have to find. Or if you're very fortunate that you have more than many days and many weeks of comfort or security arranged and ready to go, allows you to make different decisions. If you find that you are only days or hours away, then that tells you that what we're going to discuss next is even more important for you. But every one of these are systems or behaviors. I'm going to use a system. It's a system. It's a fancy system. Well, by fancy system, I'm going to write down on a piece of paper how much money I have, how many bills I've got, how much they cost, and how much money more or less I've got, telling me how much more I've got to make. If I've got more money than what my bills cost, then I got the luxury of being able to say, okay, how much further can I get myself ahead now or in the next week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks to keep going with this trend? And in this case, that's taken me just about to the end of the month, and Mitch is in a good spot. He can pay his bills. He can pay his bills to the end of the month right now. Cool. Now my job is to add more onto it so that when I get to December, December's bills are covered. And then when I get to January, January's bills are covered. And when I get to February, February's bills are covered. And now by the time I get to January, February, March, my expectations are that when I get to January, I don't have January's bills covered. I get to January, I have February's bills covered. When I get to February, I've got March and some of April's bills covered. When I get to March, I've got April and some of May's bills covered. When I get to April, I've got May and June's bills covered. Small incremental steps started right now for 30 days with your money is going to give you better control and better cost certainty. Again, probably as high as 70 or 80% of the bills you pay on a monthly basis reoccur, happen in the same place all the time, which means a good portion of what you spend to operate every month is not a surprise. Should not be. And how much money you've got in the bank right now, you need to be able to figure that out in the next 30 seconds. If you can't, then you're not putting this thing to good enough use. Whether you love or hate the smartphone, in the next 30 seconds, you should be able to tell me or yourself how much money you got in the bank. Tells you how far you can get. So remember, how much do I have? What does it cost this week and this month to operate? How much more or less do I need to find? If it's less, that tells me in the next 30 days how much I have to make up for it. And I have more, how much I want to make so I can make that extend further, make my time and my money move forward. Okay. So that's the very first part, and it's the most essential in your business, and that's cash. That is cash money, baby. It is nothing but the green, or we're in Canada, so it's orange and brown bills. You know, those are the fancy ones, right? You pull out your wallet and you got the orange and the brown bills. That means you got 50s and 100s. Yeah, good days. Good days when you got orange and brown bills in your wallet. When you got nothing but green and blue ones, doesn't feel so good. Greens are $20 bills, by the way. And yes, I like a $20 bill, but we definitely like the feel of the orange and the brown ones a little better. Makes sense? So cash flow, get it right. Know how much it's going to cost you over the next 30 days, how much you have now, and how much you have to add. If you're lucky or fortunate or have been diligent, smart, and you don't need to add any, then how much can you add by the end of November so that the money you've got parked runs for further, goes further into the future? Okay. Whatever that number is, so we're always adding cash no matter what. That's the final rule when it comes to cash flow. We're always adding to it no matter what. We're either adding to it because we're trying to pay bills right now, or we're adding to it because we're trying to give ourselves more cushion, more runtime, or more burn rate. The amount of money it costs just to operate, burn rate or burn time. So I'm always looking to add cash. That is desperately important because that focuses us on the next 30 days, part 2. So part 1 is cash. How much does it cost? How much do I have? How much do I have to keep? And how long can I make it last? Okay. No surprises on your bills. There should not be any surprises on your bills. If there are, put them in your calendar. Again, I'm pointing up here because that screen's got my calendar open and I'm looking at the week of November 16th. And as we discussed already, I can tell you exactly what bills I've got and how much that week's going to cost. So there are no surprises. Might not have the money, but that means that my job is number 2 next. Sales and marketing. Drive for your business. The engine that keeps the engine that keeps the business moving. That was a lot of weird words in a row. Cash is the lifeblood. It's the fuel. It gets the engine to run for so far. So when I said, how much money do we have? How many bills do we have? That's how far the tank of gas that is your cash is going to make your business run. Next, sales and marketing are how fast you're going to get there, or how much more fuel you're going to add to the tank. So it's going to tell you how far your business is going to run. So if we know whatever that figure is that we have to add, either I need money today or I need money to add to the future. Sales and marketing is part 2 in our drive. So for sales and marketing, again, I keep talking about measure first and then do an activity. So how many people do you do business with in 30 days? If you sell things, if you sell pens for a living, how many pens do you sell in 30 days? How many pens do you expect to sell in November? Remember, it's November 3rd. So how many pens do I expect to sell by November 30th? Or how many massages if I'm a massage therapist? Or how many bookkeeping clients if I'm a bookkeeper? How many accounting clients for corporate year ends do I need as an accountant? How many clients that want their business to be worked on does a business coach need on a monthly basis? How many people does he work with regular? How many businesses? So how many do I do regularly? So that figure should marry up to what? The cash we had in the very first part. We talked about the cash, right? So if I sell 1,000 pens for $1 a piece and I make $1,000 a month, it means on average I sell 1,000 pens for $1 a piece. Make sense? Now, do I have people coming back every month to buy 1,000 pens at $1 a piece to make $1,000? I don't know. I'd hope so. I'd absolutely hope so. But for us from a sales and marketing, I need to know what that figure is. Because if I know, and I'm just going to use the example of selling pens for $1 a piece for $1,000. So I have to sell to 1,000 people every month. In the next 27 days, I have to sell 1,000 pens. Now I can sell 1,000 to one person. I can sell 10 pens to 100 people. I can sell 1,000 pens to 1,000 people. It really doesn't matter. But to make $1,000 at $1 a piece, I got to sell 1,000 pens. So I know how many of those I have to sell. After that, so I know what price and how many it takes for me to do what? Pay my bills for the next 30 days. If my bills cost $1,000 and I need to make $1,000 selling pens, and they all sell at $1 a piece, I have to sell 1,000 pens in a month to pay my $1,000 in bills, to find the $1,000 that I need for my business to run. Now that I got this figure, how many people, so first one, how many pens do I have to sell and at what price? The next figure down, the next number you're going to need is, how many people do I have to talk to sell 1,000 pens? In sales, that's called leads and prospects, meaning that if to sell 1,000 pens, every time one person buys one pen for $1, I have to have 2 people come to me to have a look at the pen. Then I know this month, then, if I'm going to need to sell 1,000 pens, I have to talk to 2,000 people. If every one person that decides to buy buys one pen. If I know that it takes 2 people for one person to buy a pen, in other words, one person comes, picks it and goes, it's a nice pen, but I don't need a pen right now. And they walk away, the next person picks up and says, ooh, I need a pen. That means I have to talk to 2 people to make that one pen sell. So if I know that I have to sell 1,000 pens, I also want to know that I have to talk to 2,000 people to sell 1,000 pens. Make sense? Okay. So if I write, and again, it's an example, your business's numbers are going to be very different, but those are the 2 most essential that you have to understand. How many people do you have to talk to overall in favor of how many equate to a sale? That is leads, prospects, and sales. That is, in sales language, that is your sales pipeline. I have to talk to 10 people to get 3 that are interested to have 1 buy something. Those are very old and what we consider universal statistics in sales, which means that if I talk to 10 complete strangers, if I'm lucky and good at my job, I'll get 3 that are kind of like, I like what you're saying. And out of those, one of them is going to go, you convinced me. I'm going to buy your stuff. I'm going to buy your pen, right? So when I know what those numbers are, that starts to tell me how much business, how many people I have to talk to, how many businesses, organizations, individuals to get to what? The dollars I need to make this month. So in our pen example, we said we have to talk to 2,000 people to get 1,000 people to buy 1 pen at $1. So we made $1,000 in sales. And in our example, then it cost us $1,000 for our business to run for the whole month. Does it make sense? Now, when we know what our figure is, and it could be anything, you can have to talk to 10 people to get 3 that go, I'm kind of interested and curious, and 1's going to buy. So whatever the one person that's going to buy, how much money is that individual worth? The next figure that we need, so how many people do I think I need to talk to, and how many sales do I have to make? In other words, how many transactions do I have to have? How many $1 pens do I have to sell to get to $1,000? Or whatever your figure is. And no, it's not selling pens. Everybody sells different things. After that, I need to know how much my transactions are worth. So if I sell a pen for $1, it was built in. This pen I sell for $1. To make $1,000, I have to sell 1,000 of them. What happens when the pen is $5 and I need $1,000? Well, that means that I actually have to sell 200 pens. Make sense? What if the pen is $10 instead of $1? Then I have to sell 100 pens instead of 1,000 pens to make $1,000. This starting to make sense? If I sell pens at $50 instead of $1, I have to make 20 sales instead of 1,000 to make $1,000. So how much is my average transaction? How much do I just make on average from a person? If it's $500 or $50 or $1 for a pen, how much does the average person spend when they do business with me? So if I've got the number of people I've got to talk to, the number of transactions, and the average value, in other words, I have to get 1,000 people to buy a $1 pen. And so that price is $1 for that pen. There's the figures I've got. Now I want to be able to manipulate those. So we're going to stick with this example. I have to sell 1,000 pens to 1,000 people at $1 to make $1,000. What if that $1,000 at the end is soft, superfluous, can be manipulated? What happens then? What happens? What happens if Instead of $1,000 at the end, you need $1,500. Okay. So now I have to sell a $1 pen to 1,500 people. And if before, and again, remember the example, I had to talk to 2,000 people to sell 1,000 pens. Now I have to talk to 3,000 people to sell 1,500 pens to make $1,500. But every one of those figures can be manipulated to give us, yes, a worse outcome, but also a better outcome. One of the things that we can manipulate in the next 30 days is our price. Now, some features, services, or products have a fixed price. Others don't. So, or if we sell certain services and products and they have a fixed price, what else do we have, or what additional things so that we increase our sale? So here's where the fourth piece of information comes in. 1,000 people buy one $1 pen every time they show up, and that creates $1,000 a month. So if I need $1,500 a month, then I need to sell 1,500 pens? Or can I still sell those 1,000 pens at $1 a piece? But do I have a 50-cent pen case to go with my $1 pen? Now I still only need to sell to 1,000 people, but instead, every person that buys a $1 pen, we put it into a 50-cent pen case and say, hey, you don't have to take the pen case, but here it is. It's 50 cents more. It's going to protect your pen. In this case, I like this pen. It's a fancy pen. It sits on my desk. It really doesn't go anywhere because I work out of a home-based office. But if I did, somebody might steal it. I might forget it and leave it somewhere. I might get bashed around inside my, my briefcase or my satchel. Yeah, I use the word satchel. And so it gets marked up and scratched up. I don't like that. So maybe I'll spend 50 cents on a pen case, because now that pen case is going to keep the pen protected. So now I've just changed the amount of money I make per transaction. Instead of $1 every time I sell a pen, I make $1.50. Now, if I need to make $1,500, I still have to sell 1,000 pens with 1,000 pen cases to make $1,500. But what if I only need 1,000 right here? So if I get $1.50 each instead, how many sales do I have to make at $1.50 instead of 1,000 to get to $1,000? Anybody want to do it? I do it in my head, but I'm gonna whip this bad boy out for a moment, and I'm gonna use my calculator. So instead, I've got $1,000, and I divide it by $1.50. I have to sell, ugly number, 666 pens. So you know what? We're going to round up. We're going to make it 670 pens. I have to sell 670 pens instead of 1,000 pens at $1 for a pen and 50 cents for a pen case. Now you see how that cut a third of my workout. Instead of having to sell to 1,000 people, I have to sell to 670 people to make the same money. The moment I can take any one of those figures and I can adjust my price, I can adjust the value per transaction. In other words, instead of $1 for a pen, I get $2 for a pen. Or instead of $1 for a pen sale, I sell a 50-cent pen case with it as well. Now I'm adjusting price, or I'm adjusting the value of the transaction. When I adjust the value for the transaction, the dollar figure I have to make starts to shrink because I need less transactions, so less work in sales. Or if I want to make more money and I'm used to selling to 1,000 people for 1,000 pens, instead I sell 1,000 pens with 1,000 pen cases for $1.50, and I make $1,500, $1,500 instead of $1,000, which means I have increased my revenue by 50%. In sales, if we're going to have a 30-day impact on our business, there are some things that we need to consider whether we can adjust. One, our price. How much does it cost to buy a pen, or business coaching, or accounting and bookkeeping, or software development, or I'm looking at the names that we've got on here right now, or experience packages, or health products. How much does it cost? Can we manipulate that price? If we can't, how can we increase the transaction value. In other words, every person normally spends $1 to buy a pen. How can I get them to spend $1.50 for a pen in a pen case? Or can I get them to buy the same $1 pen for $1.50 and then sell them a pen case at 50 cents? Now my per transaction has gone from $1 to $2. Every one of these figures becomes manipulatable. And then it tells us how many people between now, November 3rd and November 30th, we have to talk to do business, to pay for our month worth of business. Remember our cash exercise? Well, now we want to consider how much money do I have to add on if I've got the luxury of more time? Then how much do I want to add on to make it last longer? Or if I don't have that luxury, I have a more immediate need, how many of these transactions at a new value, which means that maybe we're doing less work talking to people, are going to give us the same money to cover our backside, to cover our bills, etc. Or if we want to make an increase in our revenue, how much money do we want to get to? Remember we talked about total transactions? So before we wanted to get to $1,000 selling pens, but instead of $1, I get $50 a pen. What does that say? Instead of having to sell to 1,000 people, I have to sell to 20. Or if I still want to sell to 1,000 people and I'm selling $50 pens, I go from making $1,000 a month to making $50,000 a month because this price or the amount per transaction changed. So the moment I can take my price, the value of the average transaction, in other words, how much the average person typically spends, or manipulate the number of people I want to talk to. So in this case, to sell 1,000 pens, I want to add a modest amount to that. So here we go. I want you to take a blank spot on a piece of paper right now, and I want you to write one pen, just the words, one pen. So you're going to write one pen. And yes, it's backwards because the camera's reversing. And then next to it, I'm going to write $1. And then next to that, I'm going to write 1,000 pens. So that is one pen at $1 to sell 1,000 pens equals $1,000. Make sense? Now, that $1,000, right underneath it, I'm going to write $1,500. Under the 1,000 pens above it, I'm going to write 1,100 pens. Now, if I sell 1,100 pens to get $1,500, one second. It changes my price from $1 a pen to $1.36. So under the $1, I have $1.36. So I had 1,000. I changed it to $1,500 I want to make. I go from 1,000 people to 1,100. I want to increase the number of sales. I'm going to try and get it on a monthly basis to $1,100. And to get to that increase, because before at $1, I'd still have to sell 1,500. Well, instead, I wanted to only sell to 10% more, but I wanted to make a 50% increase in the amount of money I made. So my price adjusted to $1.36. I'm still only selling one pen each. So by saying that this month, I want to sell 10% more pens, but I need to make 50% more revenue, what is my price going to adjust to? And in this case, I'm going from selling a pen for $1 to a pen for $1.36. And then I'm only looking to increase from selling 1,000 pens in a month to 1,100. Why 10%? 10% rule is a pretty good rule of thumb because the average business owner can usually absorb 10% more sales or more effort into 10% more sales without a significant statistical increase. In other words, having to spend more on employees, spend more on infrastructure, or just spend more in basic costs. In other words, the average business can usually expand, take on a little more, 5 to 10%, without having to change anything inside the business. Most businesses, and here's a trade-off to the rule of thumb for a moment, can usually contract, shrink, should be able to shrink by at least 10% without having to make any material changes or cut back on employees. If you don't have that kind of 10% gap either side of what you're earning right now, then you have some other then you've got some other struggles that you need to address. But for us, we want to focus on cash first. How much money do I have and how long is it going to last? Secondly, my sales. So the manipulatable amount of money. Now that we've got this, I sell one pen at $1.36 for $1,100 for $1,500. That's where we start to work smarter, not harder. Now I want you to take that as an example with your own numbers, whatever it is. I have to sell one business coaching package. I have to sell one software consultation. I have to sell one catch-up bookkeeping appointment with a client that has 6 months in arrears, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I want you to put your dollar figure down and how many of those you need to make the money you need to on a monthly basis. Then I want you to adjust your price so that you get 10% more, 20% more, 50% more money than you did before. That makes sense? Now, if I look at all of these figures, so I'm going to sell at $1, at one pen, to 1,000 people. If I increase that 1,000 people to 1,100, I increase that one pen by 10%. You're going, how do you sell it at 10th of a percent? Well, every 10 people, I want to sell one more pen. So for every 10 people, I want to sell 11 pens instead of 10. Make sense? So I want to add an increase. So I'm at 1.1 pens on average per transaction because I sell more. I can eventually get one more person to buy a pen. And my dollar, I want to change to $1.10. So there's my $1. There's one pen for $1,000 bucks. Okay. Instead, I'm going to change that to $1.10 and 1.1 pens. Does that come out to 1,100 bucks? Actually, it doesn't. By increasing this by 10% and by increasing the number of pens I sell in my transaction, that 1,100 bucks turns to $1,210. When I make a 10% increase here and a 10% increase there, that increases that number by 21%. I still only need 1,000 transactions at $1.10 and 1.1 pens bought for every person. But instead, the same 1,000 transactions, I make $1,200. Now, the last figure we want to understand is that if I sell pens for $1.10 instead of $1, and every 10 people are going to buy one more pen, so I'm selling 11 pens for 10 people, 1.1 pens a person, and that gets me to $1,210. Now, about all of those, here's where we add the marketing. So client satisfaction. That's the second leg in customer service. So if I'm going to spend all of my time finding 1,000 people to buy pens, but instead of $1, I sell them at $1.10. And I know every 10 people I have to hustle for one more pen to sell. So I need to sell 11 pens to 10 people. I want those people to refer or come back and buy 10% more often. So if that's 1,000 people a month to sell pens to, I want that 1,000 to be 1,100 people. Hey, did you enjoy your pen buying experience? Would you recommend buying a pen for me to someone else? Do you use more than one pen? Remember, I'm trying to sell 11 pens instead of 10 to every 10 people. Maybe you need to come back more often, or maybe I've got a good deal, or maybe you just lose them. They get stolen. You leave them someplace. They get banged up. You didn't buy a pen case in our earlier example. So instead, now I've got $1.10, 1.1 pens being sold, so 11 pens for every 10 people. But now I'm chasing 1,100 transactions because I'm asking for them to come back. I'm asking for them for reviews, testimonials. I'm asking them to refer somebody, or if they can come back and buy more often. When I increase that number by 10%, I make $1,320 in a month by doing 1,100 transactions instead of making $1,000 doing 1,000 transactions. By just doing 10% more sales, but changing the value of the transaction, the price that I've got, and the number of purchases that are made, and then by setting up my business by just asking for repeated business, referrals, testimonials, etc. In the next 30 days, you can take the same number of transactions, only expand. Remember, average business could probably absorb another 5 to 10% more without having to make a big change. By increasing your sales by 10%, you're going to increase your sales total by 32%. So instead of 1,000 people, I want 1,100, but I'm going to make 32% more revenue. Now, with our last 9 minutes today, so lesson 1, how much cash do I have? How far is it going to go paying my bills? How much do I have to add on top of it to either stay whole, in other words, keep paying my bills right now, or how much extra do I have to add on it so that my business will keep going longer? Lesson 2, what price am I selling at? And how many people do I have to sell to make the money I need between now and November 30th? Second part to that is, what is the average price I'm selling at? Can I increase that by 10%? Secondly, can I get people to buy a tiny bit more, 10% increase in the number of transactions? 3, can I get them to come back more frequently by 10%? Or can I get them to refer or recommend to somebody else that they come back? I can increase my sales by up to 33% by just making a 10% change in those 3 spots. The very third part of your business, and this is quintessential, it's characteristic, the people that are in it. If you're your only employee, are you your best employee? Do you put Employee of the Month up on the bathroom wall every month? I hope so, because snap a picture and message me anywhere on social media. I'd love to see Employee of the Month somewhere in your home office that you're Employee of the Month. That is both hilarious and super cool. But you have to look at your people. How long have your people been with you? How well do they do their job? How much better can they get at their job from where they're at right now? So you and your people as they exist, and yes, even for yourself, how good are you at your job? Give your scale, 1 to 5. Give yourself old school grades, A's, B's, C's, and D's. Hell, F's if you want to. Give yourself, write a letter grade, write a number next to it. 1 is great, 5 is terrible. How many 1s and 2s for employees do I have? How many 3s and 4s do I have? How many 5s do I have? How many A's do I have for employees? How many F's do I have for employees? Give yourself a grade. Next, are they teachable? In other words, wherever they're at right now, can their skill increase? If they can, this is the third change we have to consider. And no, this is not an advocacy that you must change your staff. You have to be reasonably certain on how good somebody is right now, if they're well enough trained, or if you can teach them to get better at their job. And that if you invest in them, do they become worth more in your business? So from the business coach to everybody for a moment, there are some rules of thumbs to note, and this is different in different parts of the world and even some industries, but you can consider this enough of a blanket to carry forward. In North America, the average business, every time they've got an employee inside that company, has a revenue range, so the amount of money that the business makes overall, somewhere between $70,000 and $280,000. So every time you got one employee, it's a good guess that the business makes between $70,000 to $280,000. You go to 2 employees, that means that business makes between $140,000 and $560,000. You had 3 employees, between 210, so on and so forth. Now, in Alberta and Western Canada, the average is between $110,000 and $140,000. So if your employees are good enough, and you've got, as an example, You have 3 employees. Your business should be making between 330 and what's 140 times 3? 420. So between 330 and $420,000 in revenue. Yes, businesses are different based on what's going on. I said it was a rule of thumb, kind of a blanket just to judge by. Are my employees really good at their job right now? What's their grade? Check. Next, are they teachable? In other words, where they're at right now from a skill, can I grow that skill reasonably in the next 30 days? Third, assessing my employees from where they're at right now and whether I can make them better at their job, including yourself. Do I think it's reasonable that that ceiling can increase? Remember, our total range on average is between 70 and 280. If your average is between 100 to 140, it means we can add another 100, 150,000 in revenue for every employee. If your employees are worth $150,000 each, can you make them worth $250,000 each? So when we look at our increase in sales, can you reasonably add more money? And do you think they can take on the burden of that increase in revenue? Now, for people that are solopreneurs, that's a catch-22. Very likely, much like most businesses, you got into a spot where you're comfortable. Maybe you're making the money that you like. Maybe you're just good enough with where you're at. Sometimes it could be better. Sometimes it's worse, but you can kind of live with it. You got into a good groove. It works the way you want it to right now. Okay, if you're your only employee, how good are you at your job? Are you teachable? In other words, can you make you better? And can you expand? Smarter, not harder. Remember, we just talked about sales. In other words, more money per transactions, more things sold, and then getting repeated business means that we only got to sell 10% more, but we get 30% more revenue. Can you, as the sole employee of your business, or can your 2 or 3 employees, or can your 20 or 30 or 200 or 300 employees take on another 10% of business? And will that allow for that increase in revenue? So for businesses in the next 30 days to maximize what they're going to do, there's just 3 things. And yeah, business is more complicated than that. But these 3 are things that you can measure and manipulate or adjust right now. First one, how much money do I have in the bank? How long is that money going to last? And how much extra do I need either right now or to add on to it just to make it go further? Secondly, sales. How many sales do I have to make at how much my average transaction, in other words, how much the average person spends when they buy something from me, whether it's a service or a product or whatever, or a pen? How much do they spend? And how much do I need of that to make the amount of money I need? Part B to that is, how much of that can I adjust? Can I adjust my price by 10%? Can I adjust the number of transactions, products or services, or upsells, etc. inside of those so I get 10% more? Can my price adjust by 10%? Can the total services, products, or offerings increase by 10% in there? And then can I get referrals or people coming back to buy again from me faster for another 10%? If I can, then I'm only increasing my actual sales volume, the number of transactions, the amount of business I've got to do by 10%, but I can increase my revenue by a third, by 32, 33, 34%. And then the third pillar or column in the next 30 days is to have an honest assessment. If it's just you, are you good enough at your job? What's your grade at right now? What skills do you have? What skills have to be improved upon? Next, is it reasonable to expect when you improve on those skills, and this is scary if it's just you, is it reasonable that you and your business can absorb more? So when you adjust your price, can you take on that increase in volume of business? Can you maintain it and satisfy it? Can you do it without burning out? And can you take that extra, 1, put it to good use, 2, bank more money for longer time, but 3, also when you start stretching at the top edges now, when we look at people, save enough money to invest when the next person comes into your business. Some businesses need employees. Some businesses need the money to pay for them, or some businesses have a natural trigger point or an event. In other words, my business gets to a certain point, I have to bring somebody else in, and now they have to be self-sustaining. Commission sales, et cetera, works like that. If I bring somebody in, they eat what they kill, but there's still an amount of time and attention, and you still have to know how good are they right now, and can their skills get better, and am I willing to invest in them improving? If I manage my cash money effectively, if I look at what I sell and how I sell, and I can adjust my price, how many transactions for every one of the clients that I've got or customers that I've got, and get them to come back more frequently by 10% in each one of these. And I make an honest assessment of where myself and my current employees are and make a 30-day investment in the form of how do I make them even a little bit better at what they're good at? Can my business take on more business? In the next 30 days, you will have addressed the 3 fundamental parts in our business: our cash flow, a regular sales process, in other words, looking at it, measuring it, and figuring it out whether what I need compared to how much I have to make makes sense. And last, whether my people are good enough to continue to maintain on the job or what I have to do to put into them. Those 3 things are immutable. There are parts of your business that must be looked at, measured, and assessed on a regular basis. So if you invest the next 30 days looking at your price and how many transactions, looking at how much money you've got and how far it's going to get you, and being very candid with how good somebody is something, but looking to make even a small improvement in their skills, your business is going to move in the positive direction. And then you reset the same game plan for the month of December. Now you've gone 60 days by measuring the 3 fundamentals inside of business. That is going to have a measured impact inside of your business, because even if nothing from a dollar figure changes yet, your internal behavior will have absolutely changed so that you're going to be looking and measuring your business differently. But that second one, that sales part, if you honestly assess how much you get per transaction and increase the dollars that it costs, the amount of stuff people buy, and how often they come back, you're going to increase your dollar pool by a third. And that's going to give you, in as little as 30 days, a third more money. So 32, 33, 34% more money than you've got right now. You're going to be measuring how much money you actually have compared to how far you have to go more successfully. And then you can look at what your people are good at and how to make them better in just 30 days at their job, so that every month you and your employees are getting better at your job. You're increasing your sales incrementally as you go, by getting as much as a third more. And your cash money, how much you have and how much you have to spend, won't surprise you anymore. And that, this month and next month, sets you up in 60 days' time to come into 2021 with a very different mindset, a different price and approach to sales, and having made direct investments in yourself and your employees. And that will lead to more success. Ladies and gentlemen, 12:33 p.m. I've talked for just about 60 minutes. Write these down. Make commitments inside of the cash in your business, what and how you sell it, the value of them, and how many of these transactions or purchases people need to make, and how good the people you've got, even if it's just you, are at their job, and make an investment in the next 30 days. And I promise you, if you do each of these more diligently, nothing will surprise you. You'll adapt and you will make changes to your business much more quickly. And business will improve because you're focusing on those areas that are always the most essential. Can my people do a good enough job, and can I make them better? Am I focusing on sales as one of my first things? How much money do I have and how much do I have to get? Yes, it can be monotonous. Yes, it can be heartbreaking. And yes, business can be scary and hurt sometimes. But you will never be surprised, which means you will be always doing what? Acting proactively, not reactively, which will have long-term the biggest measure of success for you running your own business. After that, as a bonus, invest in good people, not just staff, but surround yourself with other people that are on a similar mission, similar mindset. It's called proximity. Get better business friends. Make sense? Thank you for joining us today on a Syndicate Talks. Do business. The next 30 days, focus on your cash, push on your sales, adjust your price and your transactions, make investments in your people. And of course, if you need anything at all, find us inside of Syndicate. We are always here to help. If you need to talk to somebody to help you with things you don't understand, That's part of my daytime job as a business coach. Do not hesitate to follow up. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for our live audience on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us today. On behalf of myself and the leaders and the executives inside of Cyndicate, thank you for joining us. This is a Cyndicate Talks Season 2, Episode 2, and watch for Episode 3 coming up in just 10 days. Have a fantastic day. Go forward in the world and maximize the next 30 days. Have a wonderful day.